Everybody, I just wanted to make this quick review of this beautiful 12-string guitar I picked up. It's a Guild F2512 CE Deluxe from the Westerly collection. I'm going to review the guitar, play it a little bit, and say a little bit about this guitar and also the 12-string in general. I hope you'll consider watching. Well, this is a made in China Guild F2512 CE Deluxe. You know, I don't know why they come up with all these alphabet soup names for acoustic guitars. They don't do that with electric, Stratocaster, Telecaster, Jaguar, Les Paul. But these there's a Martin one I looked at. It was DX49. I don't know what. But anyway, this is a Guild F2512. I thought of the Rush album 2112. It's and it's C because I guess the C, I'm assuming it stands for cutaway, and it's E because it has a sort of a Fishman electronic system in it that just seems kind of nice, bare bones, but you know, just so you can plug and play, which is nice. But it's a nice 12-string guitar, so. Near the end, and I just ain't got the time. It's a burst. It's an arch back. See the arch? It's got a solid Sitka spruce top and maple sides. I'm assuming those are laminated. You know, and laminated is often laminated back and sides, but laminated, you know, we tend to associate that with kind of intermediate level guitars. But I think on a 12-string, it might actually be good because the 12-string puts so much pressure on it. And I think that arch back, too, there are reasons that I think historically they had that laminate. It's not strictly just a cost-saving measure. But this is a very nice guitar. I paid like $700 for it. I forget the exact amount. I traded in for it. I'm actually going to compare it a little bit because I have had a couple other 12 strings, which right around are in this same kind of ballpark that might be some 12 strings you're looking at. And one of them was the Taylor 150E. I actually had that for a while, and I was playing it a little bit in open mics right before the pandemic hit.
Sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's not knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, and the ink stains that dried along some lines that meet you on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, keeps you ever gentle on my mind.
And then when the pandemic hit, I traded it in for some other stuff, which I kind of regret. But they were both good guitars. But I actually prefer this one. I think it's better. The other one, I went down to Guitar Center the other day to trade in a guitar and get a 12-string. And they had a used, now this is more alphabet soup, a Martin D12 X1AE. And maybe you could tell me why all these guitars are alphabet soup, acoustic guitars. F2512 CE Deluxe. Who names a guitar that? or Martin D12 X1 AE. What does that mean? Why can't they do what electric guitars do? You know, Telecaster, Stratocaster, Jaguar, Jazzmaster, Les Paul, Firebird, you know, Flying V. I don't know, but anyway, I went down there to buy this Martin 12 string, which they had used, which was about $450 used, and it was good, by the way. You couldn't go wrong with either of those three guitars, but they had this one there brand new, and I picked it up and I liked it better. I think it had more resonance, it had more ring to it, and it also had a little better action. You know, 12 strings, you're always going to fight with the action a little bit on a 12 string. I mean, you can't play them really the same way as a 6 string, but they do give you that big fat sound that you can't get anywhere else really. Well, if I had $1 and if I had a dime, I'd buy myself an old guitar, pass away the time just as singing songs for you, and the way you make me smile. Oh, woman of the country, I've been riding many miles. But I ended up, I just said, man, I'm going to regret it if I don't. I picked up this Guild, and I liked it better than that Martin. So I actually had a Taylor 150E, a Martin, and I've tried in the store for a while this Martin D12 X1 AE. Again, they need to change that name. They need to change it to like the Martin Eagle 12 or something. I don't know, D12 X1 AE. And I went with this. And I always like Guilds, so let me just say a little bit about it. First of all, the guitar is pretty well made. It's a Guild, and I was raised, I'm old enough to remember when Guild was kind of one of the main guitars, almost like Martin or Gibson. And that was kind of the 60s. You know, John Denver was associated with the Guild. And, you know, the Guilds were famous for two things, jumbo guitars and 12-string guitars. And with this, you get a jumbo and a 12-string all rolled into one ball. And I think that Martin and that Taylor 12 strings were dreadnoughts. And this is a jumbo. So you do get a little fatter sound. And if you think about it, a big fat sound is what you're looking for when you get a 12-string. And like I said, lunatic is in my head. The lunatic is in my head. Raise the blade, you make the chain. That plays great. There was actually Mitchell in there that wasn't too bad. The other thing about 12 strings is I don't think they really make stinky 12 strings. It's kind of like pedal steels or some of the instruments that aren't played that much. You know, they don't bother to make bad ones. You know. Because anybody that probably is going to buy a 12-string these days is probably pretty good, and you know they're not gonna sell it to some big screen door wire finger bleeder of yore. But the other thing about a 12-string is they can't make them too expensive, because it's not going to be a guitar that most players just seek out off the rack. It's going to be kind of a niche guitar. So you put those two things together, well, there's kind of a downward pressure on price, but also kind of an upward pressure on quality. So actually, you can get some pretty good 12 strings at pretty affordable prices. Fender's got one. And I'm sure they're all pretty decent, you know, for the money. And some of them are like $500. I think a couple of them are even under. But this was a very nice guitar. It's from the Westerly collection. It was made in China. One interesting thing is it says in here, there's a label that says designed in California. And I don't want to sound like Ross Perot or Donald Trump or somebody, but I did kind of think, now, why would you design something in California, send it to China to be made, and then bring it back across the Pacific Ocean yet again to sell in America? There's something messed up about that, but anyway, it's made in China, and you know, it's well made. Can't argue with the craftsmanship. It's too bad Guild's such a great American company. It's, I guess, then they do have a made in the USA line, which I think is made in California these days. And the Westerly collection, this is part of their Westerly collection, which I think has a lot of the specs of the old classic Guilds of the 60s and 70s. That's what it says. And it's made in China, maybe to make it more affordable, I guess. Fortunately or unfortunately, as it were, but it's definitely a good guitar. It's definitely well made. So can't really argue with the quality of the instrument. It's got nice tuners on it. I think it sounds great. It's got a big old sound. It's beautiful. It's got a nice big fat neck like any 12 string. You know, there's a lot of stress on that neck. There's the battery compartment. Quick note, actually, there's a volume control and a tone control inside the guitar that you can kind of reach into the sound hole, which is nice. But you know, sometimes to me, this is kind of plug and play. You want to, if you're somewhere and you just want like an open mic or something like that, you just want to plug in and play. It probably just picks up the guitar, you know. So sometimes to me, a simpler pickup in those kinds of situations is better. Just something that kind of picks it up and amplifies it, because anytime you have a pickup, you're losing some of the acoustic goodness of just a straight up wood guitar. But anyway, it's got nice tuners, I would say. Another thing, it's got a bone nut and a bone bridge. Now I was wondering about that. I thought, you never know. Maybe they invented a plastic, and the proprietary name of the plastic is bone. They said, hey, we've got this great plastic to use for our guitars. Let's name it Bone so we can say bone nut. You get so you don't trust some of these people. You try to find this, and if it's kind of murky, that's a red flag. Like, you can't find on their website where it really comes out and says these are laminate back and sides. But if it doesn't say solid back and sides, you probably know it's laminate. But like I said, you know, if you're buying a nice Martin or something, you definitely want the solid back and sides. But I think, to me, for 12 string, which, you know, is just something kind of nice to have, I'm going to make some 12 string guitar videos in here, and it sounds good. It plays great. And it's not something I'll play all the time. And I was really pleased with the purchase. And if I were a sailor on a boat upon the sea, I'd sail through every harbor, every port of mystery, and I'd sing out to the morning, sing out for a while. Oh, woman of the country, I've been riding many miles. Oh, woman of the country, I've been riding many miles. Oh, woman of the country, I've been riding many miles. And I think it's a very well-made guitar. I think it's a beautiful guitar. And I haven't had any complaints whatsoever. And I'm glad that, you know, I always wanted a Guild. I'd like to get a nice American Guild. To me, you know, that is, it's an American company with all the American history to it, Guild, you know. I think it came out of Epiphone, really. When Gibson bought Epiphone, was that back in the, whatever, the 30s or 40s even, but the people that Gibson laid off from Epiphone that knew how to make guitars, and these arch tops, they went and started Guild. And And so it's kind of an offshoot of Epiphone, really. And it was a great, when I was in high school, it was one of the best guitars you could get. And then they kind of went through a period in the 80s and 90s where I didn't hear about them. I guess they were still around, but Fender bought them. I looked at the history of the company, and I'm glad to see it seems like they're trying to revive it. And this is part of the Westerly collection. I think it's called Westerly because the classic period of Guild, the guitars were made in Westerly. I hope I don't get this wrong. Rhode Island or New Jersey. But this, of the three that I'm most intimately familiar with, this is the one I preferred, the Westerly Guild F2512 CE Deluxe. The only thing they need to change about, there are the two things they need to change. It's too bad they can't make it in California, and they need to come up with a better name than Alphabet Soup. It's not the New Deal, it's a guitar. But anyway, it is a nice guitar. It's well made, you know, and I'm sure the people that made it obviously knew what they were doing. And I think we might be seeing more Chinese guitars, you know, that are high quality, like we are with Japanese guitars. You know, I've got some Japanese Fenders, and they're terrific. And I think China and Korea and maybe Indonesia, their guitars were never really seen the same way that some of these Japanese Fenders were. I think Ibanez is a Fender, Japanese, right? That's a Japanese company, right? But you might start seeing Chinese guitars kind of get the kind of respect that Japanese guitars do, because it's pretty well made, and it plays great, and it's not BS, you know. I mean, it plays, it stays in tune, it's nice. Everything's, the quality control must be pretty high, because I don't see anything wrong with it for the price point. Nothing. I mean, just everything's where it should be. Thanks. God bless. Take care.